Marcus Reed had fixed everything from malfunctioning coffee makers to military-grade Starship reactors, but the piece of equipment sitting on his workbench defied every classification he'd ever encountered. The woman who'd brought it to his repair shop on Obsidian Point called it armor, though Marcus suspected that was like calling a fusion reactor a warm rock, technically accurate but missing several crucial details. So, he said, adjusting his diagnostic scanner for the third time, when you say this is armor, you mean in the traditional, keeps sharp objects from penetrating your vital organ sense, or more in the ancient artifact of unknowable cosmic power sense? Serafina, she'd given him only the one name, tilted her head with predatory grace. Her ears swept upward in elegant points that caught the shop's fluorescent lighting, and her smile suggested she found his question either charming or dinner-related. Marcus hoped for the former. Both, she said, her voice carrying an accent that seemed to belong to no known human colony. Though the cosmic power part has been somewhat unreliable lately. Marcus ran his scanner over the armor's breastplate and watched his readings climb into ranges that shouldn't exist. The material appeared to be some kind of biometallic composite that exhibited properties of both living tissue and quantum-engineered alloys. Energy signatures flickered through spectrums his equipment could barely detect, following patterns that looked almost like a heartbeat. Right, he said, making notes on his tablet. And when did you first notice the cosmic power becoming unreliable? Approximately 3 centuries ago, Serafina replied with the casual tone most people used to discuss last week's weather. Marcus's stylus stopped moving. I'm sorry, did you say centuries? As in multiple hundreds of years? 347 years, 2 months, and 16 days, she clarified. Though I may be off by a few hours. Time becomes somewhat fluid when you've lived as long as I have. Lived as long as, Marcus set down his tablet and looked at her properly. Serafina appeared to be in her mid-20s, with the kind of timeless beauty that belonged on classical sculptures or expensive perfume advertisements. Her skin had the pale luminosity of someone who'd never seen natural sunlight, and her dark hair seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. You're not human, he said, proud of his deductive reasoning skills. Very perceptive, Serafina said dryly. What gave it away? The pointed ears, the archaic armor, or the casual mention of being older than your species' space program? Actually, it was the way you move, Marcus admitted. Like gravity is more of a suggestion than a law. Serafina's expression shifted to something that might have been surprise. Most humans noticed the ears first. I fix alien technology for a living, Marcus shrugged. Pointed ears are Tuesday. Defying fundamental physics is considerably more interesting from an engineering perspective. He returned his attention to the armor, running more detailed scans and trying to understand the energy flow patterns. The technology was clearly ancient, not just old, but from an entirely different era of technological development. It reminded him of archaeological finds from the precursor sites, except those had been dead for millennia while this armor hummed with active power systems. May I ask what happened 3 centuries ago that made your cosmic power unreliable? Marcus asked, focusing his sonic calibrator on what appeared to be a damaged power coupling. A battle, Serafina said simply. The last of many battles. My people, we were warriors once. Guardians of sorts. But war has a way of consuming even the most noble intentions. Marcus glanced up from his work. There was something in her voice, a weariness that spoke of losses too great to catalogue. What happened to your people? Time, she said. Time and choices and the weight of immortality. Some transcended to energy beings. Others simply faded. A few became monsters. I seem to be the only one left who remains stubbornly corporeal. Immortality? Marcus asked, then immediately felt foolish for questioning it. He was, after all, talking to someone who claimed to be over 3 centuries old while looking like she could still get carded at a bar. A gift and a curse, Serafina confirmed. My people achieved immortality through symbiosis with cosmic energy. We became living conduits for the life force of the universe itself. Marcus's scanner beeped insistently, and he looked at the readings with growing fascination. These energy patterns, they're not just technological. There's a biological component, isn't there? The armor isn't just equipment you wear, it's integrated with your physiology. More than integrated, Serafina said quietly. It's the only thing keeping my condition stable. Without it, I become dangerous. Dangerous how? Marcus asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. My people required life force to sustain ourselves, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Without the armor's regulation systems, I would involuntarily drain the life from any living being in my proximity. The armor contains that hunger, channels it into sustainable patterns. Marcus paused in his calibration work. So you're saying you're essentially a cosmic vampire whose armor is the only thing preventing you from accidentally killing everyone around you? That's a remarkably accurate summary, Serafina said with what sounded like grudging respect. And you brought this to a repair shop on a mining station with a population of 12,000 people because, Serafina said, you have a reputation for fixing impossible things. And because the armor's containment systems are failing. Soon, I'll have to choose between isolation and becoming the monster my people once were. Marcus looked at the armor with new understanding. The energy fluctuations weren't just power irregularities, they were containment breaches. Each flicker represented another crack in the dam holding back centuries of accumulated hunger. Well, he said, picking up his quantum wrench, I've never repaired a cosmic vampire's life support system before, but I did fix a temporal displacement engine last month, so I'm feeling optimistic. You're not afraid? Serafina asked, genuine curiosity in her voice. Marcus considered the question seriously. Should I be? I mean, statistically speaking, I'm probably more likely to die from a reactor malfunction or a bar fight than from having my life force drained by an immortal alien warrior. Besides, he grinned, this is definitely going to be the most interesting repair job I've ever taken on. For the first time since entering his shop, Serafina smiled, a real smile that transformed her entire face from beautiful to radiant. You know, she said, in 3.5 centuries, you're the first person who's responded to learning about my nature with scientific curiosity instead of terror. Well, Marcus said, diving back into the armor's intricate systems, you're the first cosmic vampire I've met who bothered to find a technological solution to bloodlust instead of just embracing the monster thing. I respect the engineering approach. As he worked, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that this repair job was going to change his life in ways he couldn't yet imagine. 3 days into the repair process, Marcus had filled 2 notebooks with sketches, equations, and increasingly creative profanity regarding the armor's impossible engineering. The technology operated on principles that made quantum mechanics look straightforward, energy conversion systems that drew power from what appeared to be the fundamental forces binding reality together. Okay, he said, looking up from his spectral analysis readout, I need to ask you something, and I want you to know I'm asking purely from a scientific perspective. Serafina looked up from the ancient text she'd been reading, something written in symbols that seemed to shift when Marcus wasn't looking directly at them. Ask away. When you say your people required life force to sustain themselves, are we talking about a literal vampiric feeding process, or more of a symbolic energy exchange situation? Literal, Serafina said matter-of-factly. Though not in the way most horror stories depict it. We don't require blood specifically, blood is just the most convenient carrier of life energy. We can absorb vitality through any physical contact, though the process is more efficient through intimate connection. Marcus nodded, making notes. And the armor regulates this how? It creates a closed energy loop, she explained, moving to stand beside his workbench. Instead of drawing life force from external sources, it allows me to recycle my own energy patterns indefinitely. It's sustainable but limited. Limited in what way? Serafina hesitated, and Marcus caught something vulnerable in her expression. I can survive, but I can't truly live. The armor suppresses not just the hunger, but most emotional responses. It's been centuries since I've felt much of anything. Marcus set down his tools and really looked at her. That sounds incredibly lonely. Loneliness implies missing something you once had, she said softly. After enough time, you simply forget what connection feels like. Before Marcus could respond, the shop's proximity alarms began shrieking. His security display lit up with warnings about multiple ships entering the station's controlled space, ships broadcasting bounty hunter identification codes. Serafina, Marcus said slowly, please tell me you don't have any outstanding warrants or vengeful ex-boyfriends I should know about. She was already moving toward the armor, her casual demeanor replaced by predatory alertness. Not ex-boyfriends, she said grimly. But I may have neglected to mention certain aspects of my historical reputation. What aspects? The part where some people know me as the Blood Empress of the Void, she admitted, beginning to don the partially repaired armor pieces. I may have had a less enlightened period during my 2nd century. Marcus stared at her. Blood Empress of the Void. That's actually terrifying enough to be impressive. What did you do? Conquered 17 star systems, ruled an empire built on fear and life energy taxation, and generally embodied every nightmare about immortal alien overlords, Serafina said, sealing the armor's connections with practiced efficiency. In my defense, I was going through a difficult phase. A difficult phase, Marcus repeated. You went through a genocidal conquest phase. More like a ruling with an iron fist while slowly losing my humanity phase, she corrected. The genocide was mostly accidental, side effects of energy harvesting rather than intentional policy. The shop's outer doors exploded inward, and 3 figures in military-grade environmental suits stormed in, weapons drawn. Their leader, a scarred Altarian with cybernetic implants covering half his face, pointed what appeared to be a plasma rifle directly at Serafina. Nix high blood drinker, he growled in heavily accented standard, you are wanted for crimes against 17 systems and approximately 4 million counts of unlawful life energy extraction. 4 million? Serafina asked, seeming genuinely puzzled. That seems high. I kept detailed records, and I'm fairly certain it was closer to 3.7 million. You kept records? Marcus asked incredulously. I was running an empire, she said defensively. Proper documentation is essential for effective governance. The bounty hunter's rifle charged with an ominous whine. You will surrender or be terminated. Here's a thought, Marcus said, stepping between them with the kind of foolish bravery that comes from spending too much time around dangerous alien technology. What if instead of the whole dramatic standoff thing, we discussed this like civilized beings? I'm sure there's been some kind of misunderstanding. No misunderstanding, human, the bounty hunter snarled. She is responsible for the deaths of millions. The bounty on her head could buy a fleet. Okay, that's fair, Marcus said reasonably. But consider this, she's been getting therapy. Sort of. I mean, she hasn't conquered anything in centuries, and she's actively seeking technological solutions to her life-draining problem. That shows real personal growth. Marcus, Serafina said quietly, while I appreciate your attempt at conflict resolution, these individuals are not interested in rehabilitation discussions. Also, Marcus continued, ignoring her, she's currently my client, and I have a strict policy about not letting people murder my customers in my shop. It's bad for business. The bounty hunter's laugh was harsh. You defend a monster, human. When she drains your life to feed her hunger, remember this conversation. Actually, Marcus said, pulling out a small device he'd been working on, I've been thinking about that whole life-draining thing, and I might have a solution. He activated the device, which immediately began projecting a localized energy field around him. The air shimmered slightly, and Marcus felt a tingling sensation across his skin. Portable life force inhibitor, he explained proudly. Based on the same principles as her armor's containment system, but designed to protect potential victims. If my calculations are correct, she shouldn't be able to drain my life energy even if she wanted to. Serafina stared at him. You built a device to protect yourself from me? I built a device to free you from having to worry about accidentally hurting people, Marcus corrected. There's a difference. The moment was interrupted by the bounty hunter opening fire. Serafina moved with inhuman speed, but her partially repaired armor couldn't fully protect her. The plasma bolt grazed her shoulder, and she stumbled, her containment systems flickering dangerously. "Oh," Marcus said, understanding flooding through him, "that's not good." Serafina's eyes had begun to glow with an inner light, and the air around her started to shimmer with barely contained energy. The hunger that had been suppressed for centuries was finally breaking free, and Marcus realized that his portable inhibitor was about to get its first real-world test. "Marcus," Serafina said, her voice layered with harmonics that made his bones ache, "you should run." "Nope," he said, checking his device's power levels. "I'm an engineer. When my inventions are about to be field-tested, I stick around to collect data. Even if the data collection might kill you." Marcus grinned, watching the bounty hunters advance while Serafina fought to maintain control. "Especially then. Besides, somebody needs to finish fixing your armor, and I'm the only one crazy enough to take the job." The first bounty hunter lunged forward, and Serafina's carefully maintained control finally shattered. The transformation was both beautiful and terrifying. Serafina's carefully controlled facade shattered like glass, revealing the cosmic predator beneath. Energy poured from her invisible waves, and the first bounty hunter who touched her began aging decades in seconds. His scream cut off abruptly as his life force flowed into her like water into a desert. "Okay," Marcus said, his voice remarkably steady for someone watching a centuries-old vampire feed, "that's definitely not something you see every day." His portable inhibitor held, creating a protective bubble around him even as the air itself seemed to hunger for his life. The second bounty hunter tried to flee, but Serafina moved like liquid shadow, her movements too fast for baseline human vision to track. The feeding process was swift and absolute. Within moments, 2 of the 3 hunters had been reduced to desiccated husks. The third hunter, the scarred Altarian leader, had apparently invested in better equipment. His environmental suit flickered with the same energy patterns Marcus recognized from Serafina's armor, and he managed to maintain distance while firing concentrated plasma bursts. "Military-grade life force protection," Marcus observed clinically. "Interesting. Probably reverse-engineered from captured Nyx high technology." Serafina paused in her pursuit, turning to look at him with eyes that blazed like miniature stars. "You're analyzing the situation," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that suggested vast depths of power, "while I'm literally draining the life from your attackers." "Well, yes," Marcus said reasonably. "It's fascinating. Also, you missed a spot, that one's still shooting at us." A plasma bolt seared past his head, and Marcus decided that perhaps some situations called for less scientific observation and more practical problem-solving. He dove behind his workbench, pulling Serafina with him. The feeding helped, he noted, checking her energy readings with a handheld scanner. "Your power levels are stabilizing, but the armor's containment systems are still compromised." "Marcus," Serafina said, her voice returning to something approximating normal, "I just killed 2 people in front of you. Most humans would be traumatized." "They were trying to kill us," Marcus pointed out. "Also, technically, you drained their life force, which is probably different from traditional killing from a legal standpoint. We should look into the jurisdiction issues later." Another plasma bolt sparked off the workbench, and Marcus peeked over the edge to assess their tactical situation. 1 hostile remaining, armed with energy weapons and life force protection. "We need a plan." "I could try to overpower his defenses," Serafina suggested. "Or," Marcus said, "we could fix your armor properly and solve the long-term problem instead of just addressing the immediate tactical situation." "In the middle of a firefight?" "I do my best work under pressure," Marcus grinned, already pulling components from his emergency repair kit. "Besides, I think I figured out what's wrong with your containment matrix." Working with the efficiency of someone who'd learned to perform complex repairs while being shot at, Marcus began connecting bypass circuits to the armor's damaged power coupling. The problem isn't with the energy regulation, it's with the energy source. Your armor was designed to work with a specific type of cosmic energy that's become depleted in this region of space. The background radiation levels have been dropping for centuries, Serafina confirmed, returning suppressing fire with her own built-in energy weapons. My people noticed it before I became the last one. Right, but here's the interesting part, Marcus said, his hands flying over the delicate circuitry. Human technology has been developing along similar energy manipulation principles. Our quantum generators work on fundamentally compatible frequencies. He pulled out a small power cell from his personal equipment, a cutting-edge human battery that used quantum fluctuation to generate sustainable energy. If I can create a hybrid power source, combining your ancient technology with human innovation. The modification required precise work while plasma bolts continued to sear the air above their heads. Marcus found himself in the peculiar position of performing xenoarchaeological engineering under combat conditions, which wasn't covered in any of his technical manuals. There, he said finally, connecting the last circuit. Try it now. Serafina activated the modified armor systems, and immediately the chaotic energy flows around her stabilized into smooth, controlled patterns. The hungry radiation that had been leaking from her containment systems vanished, replaced by a gentle luminescence that suggested power under perfect control. It's working, she breathed, wonder in her voice. I can feel the difference. The hunger is quiet. More than quiet, Marcus said, reading his scanner with growing excitement. The hybrid energy source is actually more efficient than your original design. You're not just containing the hunger, you're transforming it into sustainable life force that doesn't require external feeding. The remaining bounty hunter chose that moment to attempt a flanking maneuver, climbing over the workbench with his weapon raised. Serafina responded without thinking, reaching out to defend them both. Her touch should have drained his life instantly, even through his protective suit. Instead, the new armor systems converted the lethal energy into a stunning charge that left him unconscious but very much alive. I didn't kill him, Serafina said, staring at her hands in amazement. Even better, Marcus said, you incapacitated a threat without causing permanent harm. That's not just technological advancement, that's ethical evolution. Serafina looked at the unconscious bounty hunter, then at the two desiccated corpses, then at Marcus. You've given me something I thought was impossible. What's that? Choice, she said simply. For the first time in centuries, I can choose not to be a monster. Marcus finished securing the last of the armor modifications, his hands steady despite everything they'd just been through. Everyone deserves the chance to be better than their worst moments, he said. Your past doesn't have to define your future. The bounty on my head will still exist, Serafina pointed out. The crimes I committed don't disappear because I've found redemption. True, Marcus acknowledged. But now you have the tools to face that past without becoming it again. Besides, he grinned, I've always wanted to travel the galaxy, and running from bounty hunters sounds more exciting than fixing broken toasters on mining stations. Serafina stared at him. You want to come with me? I want to keep working on this technology, Marcus said honestly. This hybrid approach could revolutionize energy systems across the galaxy. Also, I think you could use a friend, and I've never been able to resist an interesting engineering challenge. Marcus, Serafina said softly, you don't understand what you're offering. My world is dangerous, complicated, and full of people who want me dead. So, basically like every interesting job I've ever taken, Marcus replied. Plus, someone needs to maintain your armor, and I'm the only one who understands the hybrid systems. Serafina moved closer, her newly stabilized energy creating a warm aura around them both. You realize that traveling with me means leaving your old life behind. My old life was fixing broken equipment on a mining station at the edge of nowhere, Marcus said. I think I can do better. When she kissed his forehead in what seemed like gratitude, Marcus felt a strange tingling sensation where her lips touched his skin. The feeling spread through his body like warm electricity, and his portable inhibitor began beeping an alarm before shutting down entirely. "That's interesting," he said, checking the device. The inhibitor just registered an energy transfer, but instead of protection mode, it went into enhancement mode. Serafina pulled back, studying his face with growing concern. "Marcus, how do you feel?" "Fine," he said, then paused. "Actually, better than fine. More alert, more alive, somehow." His scanner was beeping insistently, and when Marcus looked at the readings, he discovered that his own life signs had changed. His cellular regeneration rate had increased dramatically, his neural activity showed patterns he'd never seen before, and his entire bioenergy signature had shifted into something that registered as distinctly non-baseline human. "Serafina," he said slowly, "what exactly happens when a Nixai kisses someone?" The word Serafina whispered was soft as starlight and old as cosmic dust, Sharveth. In the ancient Nixai tongue, it meant soul bond, life gift, the sharing of immortal essence between beings who had chosen to intertwine their fates across eternity. "I wanted to thank you," she said, her voice barely audible, "for giving me back the choice to be more than a monster. I meant only to share a fragment of my essence, a small gift of extended life." Marcus felt the tingling sensation spreading through his entire body, warmth flooding his veins like liquid lightning. "And instead," Serafina said, wonder and concern warring in her expression, "you're absorbing it completely. Your human physiology isn't just compatible with Nixai life force, it's optimizing it." The change wasn't gradual. Pain erupted through Marcus's body as his cells began restructuring themselves, his DNA rewriting itself to accommodate energies that had existed before human civilization. He collapsed to his knees, gasping as his nervous system upgraded itself to process cosmic forces beyond baseline human comprehension. "This is either the most incredible scientific breakthrough in galactic history," he managed between waves of agony, "or I'm about to die in a very unique and probably publishable way." "You're not dying," Serafina said, kneeling beside him with her hands hovering just above his skin. "You're becoming something new. Something that shouldn't be possible." Marcus could feel his perception expanding, reality unfolding into dimensions he'd never imagined. Energy patterns became visible around every object in the shop, and he could sense the life force of every person on Obsidian Point like flickering candles in a vast darkness. The sensation should have been overwhelming, but instead it felt like finally being able to see after a lifetime of blindness. "The blood," Serafina said suddenly, understanding flooding her voice. "When you cut yourself on the armor's crystal heart during the repair process, your blood integrated with the Nixai technology. You've been primed for this transformation for days. So when you kissed me, I completed a process that had already begun," she finished. "Marcus, I think you've become the first human Nixai hybrid in the history of either species." The pain began to subside, replaced by a sense of vitality that made his previous existence seem like a half-remembered dream. Marcus stood slowly, marveling at the way his enhanced senses revealed the universe's hidden complexities. He could perceive the quantum fluctuations in the air, feel the gravitational pull of distant stars, and sense the electromagnetic song of the station's power grid. "How do you feel?" Serafina asked, studying him with scientific fascination that mirrored his own. "Like I've been living in black and white and someone just invented color," Marcus replied. He looked at his hands, watching energy flow beneath his skin in patterns that resembled the armor's power circuits. "Also immortal, apparently, which is going to take some getting used to." "The immortality is real," Serafina confirmed. "But it comes with responsibilities. And with hunger, though yours should be different from mine." Marcus concentrated, trying to understand his new relationship with life force. Unlike Serafina's vampiric feeding, his enhanced senses suggested he could draw energy from multiple sources: cosmic radiation, quantum fluctuations, even the electromagnetic fields generated by technology. "I think I understand," he said. "You're designed to feed on living beings because that's what the Nixai evolved to consume. But I'm human, we're tool builders, technology users. My hybrid nature has adapted the life force requirements to work with artificial energy sources. Serafina's eyes widened. You can sustain yourself on technological energy instead of life force. Better than that, Marcus said, his enhanced perception revealing new possibilities. I think I can convert between the two. Transform technological energy into life force, or vice versa. It's like being a universal energy translator. He moved to his workbench and placed his hands on the quantum power cell he'd used to repair her armor. Immediately, he felt the device's energy flowing into him, but instead of being consumed, it was transformed and amplified. The power cell's readings doubled, then tripled, as Marcus converted his own enhanced life force back into technological energy. That's impossible, Serafina breathed. You're creating energy rather than consuming it. Not creating, Marcus corrected, optimizing. Converting inefficient energy patterns into more useful forms. It's like the universe's most practical superpower. A new alert on his scanner drew his attention. Ships were approaching the station, their energy signatures identifying them as Galactic Council enforcement vessels. Word of the bounty hunter confrontation had apparently reached official channels. We should leave, Serafina said, already moving toward the unconscious Altarian. Once the council investigators arrive, things will become complicated. Agreed, Marcus said, then paused as another realization struck him. Serafina, I can sense your emotional state now. The psychic connection that comes with the Sharveth bond. What do you sense? Marcus considered the question carefully. Through their new connection, he could feel layers of emotion that had been building in her for centuries, loneliness so deep it had become part of her identity, guilt over past actions that had shaped her into isolation, and underneath it all, something that felt like hope cautiously unfurling after ages of dormancy. I sense someone who's been alone for so long that she forgot how to believe in companionship, he said gently. And I sense that you're terrified this is all temporary, that I'll realize what I've become and leave you alone again. Serafina turned away, but Marcus could feel the truth of his words resonating through their bond. 3.5 centuries is a long time to be the only one of your kind, she said quietly. Good thing you're not the only one anymore, Marcus replied, gathering essential tools and data storage devices. Also, I should mention that I can sense your fear about my reaction to the transformation, so let me be clear, this is the most incredible thing that's ever happened to me. You say that now, but immortality isn't as romantic as literature suggests, Serafina warned. You'll watch civilizations rise and fall. Everyone you've ever known will age and die while you remain unchanged. The weight of endless time can break minds that weren't designed for it. Marcus paused in his packing to consider this seriously. You're right, he said finally. That sounds horrible if you're facing it alone. But I'm not alone, am I? I have you, and you have me, and between the two of us, we've got enough scientific curiosity to keep us busy for at least a few millennia. Through their bond, he felt her surprise at his matter-of-fact acceptance. You're not afraid. I'm terrified, Marcus admitted. But also excited. Do you have any idea how many cosmic mysteries we could solve with unlimited time and hybrid energy manipulation abilities? We could explore the galactic core, investigate dark matter phenomena, maybe even figure out what happened to the precursor civilizations. You want to spend eternity doing research projects together? Serafina asked, and Marcus could sense something like amusement beneath her disbelief. Among other things, he said, moving closer to her. I also want to help you find redemption for your past, explore what this new hybrid existence means, and see if we can develop technologies that benefit the galaxy instead of conquering it. The council ships were entering the station's docking bays, their approach triggering proximity alerts throughout Obsidian Point. Marcus finished gathering his essential equipment and activated his shop's automated security systems, no point in making things easy for investigators. There's something else, Serafina said as they prepared to leave. The Sharveth bond doesn't just connect us psychically. Our life forces are intertwined now. If one of us dies, the other dies too, Marcus finished. Yeah, I can feel that. It's like having a backup consciousness running in parallel with my own. Most people would consider that a terrifying loss of independence. Marcus grinned, his enhanced senses revealing the complex interplay of energies that now flowed between them. Most people aren't engineers who just discovered they can optimize cosmic forces through partnership. Besides, if we're going to revolutionize galactic energy technology, we'll need that kind of deep collaboration. They moved toward the shop's rear exit, leaving the unconscious bounty hunter for the council investigators to find. Marcus's enhanced hearing could detect the approaching footsteps of law enforcement teams, but his new abilities also revealed several escape routes through the station's maintenance systems. "Your ship," he said as they slipped into the service corridors, "please tell me it's equipped with a proper laboratory." "It has facilities that would make most research institutions envious," Serafina confirmed. "Though they're designed for Nick's high physiology. We'll need to modify them for human hybrid use." "Perfect," Marcus said, already envisioning the possibilities. "I've got about 1,000 ideas for hybrid technology applications, and now we have eternity to test them all." As they reached Serafina's ship, a sleek vessel that seemed to be built from the same flowing metal as her armor, Marcus paused to look back at Obsidian Point. His old life of fixing broken equipment for miners and traders seemed incredibly small compared to the cosmic adventures that awaited them. "Any regrets?" Serafina asked, her hand on the ship's entry controls. Marcus considered the question as he felt his enhanced senses reaching out to touch the energy patterns of distant stars. He was no longer entirely human, bound to an immortal alien warrior, wanted by bounty hunters, and embarking on a life that would span centuries of discovery and danger. "Only one," he said finally. "What's that?" "I regret that it took me this long to find a repair job interesting enough to literally transform my entire existence," Marcus replied, stepping aboard the ship that would carry them toward adventures beyond anything his baseline human imagination could have conceived. As they lifted off from Obsidian Point, heading toward the infinite mysteries of a galaxy that suddenly seemed much larger and more wondrous, Marcus realized that some repair jobs changed more than just broken equipment. They fixed broken lives, opened impossible futures, and connected souls across the vast darkness of space. The stars ahead weren't just distant lights anymore, they were destinations, laboratories, and the promise of discoveries that would take lifetimes to explore. And thanks to a kiss that had rewritten his very existence, Marcus finally had all the time in the universe.